live?
No,
Oh,
oh,
we're live.
oh.
We're live right now, aren't we?
We're
Shoot.
live right now.
What is up? It's Wednesday. It's 9 a.m. We're live from Austin, Texas. You guys know what that means. It's Winning on Wednesday. You guys know me. I'm Tony Merwin here to get this thing started. Got my good buddy Joe Zilla, the king of Facebook groups, hanging out with me as always.
Let's go.
We got a fun show for you guys.
We
So
do.
super looking forward to it. Joe, what's happening in your world, brother? I know you got shit going on. You got all kinds of things going on.
Yeah.
Like how you're going to pick one win to share with anybody is going to blow my mind. That's going to be the fun part.
You know, I mean, dude, really the past couple of weeks have just been, you know, Coach Burke calls them just all money-making activities, man, just a bunch of MMAs. And so it's been, we are riding a freaking wave. We've got probably 10 irons in the fire, and that we're actually supporting it, and it's like it's about to blow up. So probably my weekly win, and I'll go ahead and share it. And this, guys, it's all through relationships, right? And you guys are probably like, what the hell? Joe's not wearing a hat. Like his hair is like, I brushed it. Y'all, I even like picked out my nose hairs this morning. That's how big this meeting is. And so literally we have a huge deal that's coming into the office. They are building the new Samsung manufacturing plant here around the greater Austin area. So getting the conference room all set up, that was through somebody who knew Dad years ago, who found me, who filled out my form through Facebook, whatever, and now they're coming into the office. So just the power of relationships, and it's like a 96,000 square foot facility. So we're getting after it. We're going after it. That's going to be some life-changing money for our producer. So super excited. And I have to show, just because they're baller, we got our new one of my sponsored teams. So we got our new jerseys, and I was showing Tony, y'all, they got like little mesh backs. So it's like they breathe really well. But I thought the baby blues were pretty slick.
Those are definitely solid, or as John Wetmore would say, that's dope.
Those are dope.
96,000 square foot building. That's pretty dope.
That's pretty dope. Dude. No confusion there.
That's a big deal. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
You guys have to understand, I tuned in this morning. We're backstage hanging out, and I see Joe pop on camera. And I'm like, who is this guy, and what did he do with my co-host, Joe Campert? I've never seen this dude dressed so pretty and groomed. You know, usually it's a baseball cap and a jersey and some Nikes and like, let's roll. But he is prepped for this meeting, man. Congratulations. That is big news for you guys. Of course, you still got on the Nikes.
Yep.
Doesn't surprise me at all.
Yep.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Well, man, awesome. That is good
for
you. I'm super happy for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you. What's up with you, my man?
Everything. Fundraising's coming in. We're locking down that loan this week. I'm super pumped about that.
Awesome.
That is going to be huge, and just lead systems are working. You know, a lot of it is just, it's nothing that's new right now, but I feel like everything is perpetually winning and growing on a daily basis with the Avila agency. We're growing there. PSM has some cool stuff coming out. We are rolling out with our partnership with Sunfire. We have voice recording coming, which is a big thing that's happening with CMS, as you probably have heard or seen some people talk about in the Medicare space. Everybody's freaking out because they got to start recording their calls next month. So our partnership with Sunfire, they are using us as a test subjects for their beta for their recording platform. Sweet. So it was nice. They called on me because I've got some of the highest engagement users on the platform. And they were like, hey, can you help us? Got some guys that can test it. Let's get it going. Sure. That's all fun stuff, you know, just to see the industry progress, see things grow, you know. So growth mode is definitely the win. That's where I'm at, baby. Everything is on an upward trajectory. And speaking
that's what I was going to say.
Upward trajectories.
Yep.
The guy that we're about to bring on is, well, he's a veritable superstar. As a matter of fact, we're here to talk not only about that and kind of his history in the business, but he's got a new book coming out called Superstar. So we're going to jump into that as well. My understanding, it is his 5th book, but he is an author. He's an agency owner, leader in the industry, definitely one of the best stewards out there from the younger generation that is perpetuating, especially in the Medicare business. I mean, the average agent for the Medicare agent's like still 55 years old. You know, this dude is about half that, I think. Maybe I might be off a year or two, but he's basically about half of that age. So he is going to come on and talk to you guys about all kinds of good stuff. He's a content beast, content machine, author, superstar himself. Let's bring him on. My good friend and creator of the Six Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, Six Figure Medicare Agent Summit, Mr. Christian Brindle. What's up, baby?
Let's go.
What's going on, gentlemen? Thank you for having me. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm fresh. First thing in the morning energy, There's nothing quite like it. So I'm ready to go. I'm fired up.
What you
Right
got? Give
on.
us what's the weekly win? We need the weekly win. What you got?
Man, okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is the book, but I won't talk about the book because that's probably an obvious one. So we just got started back into doing seminars because we stopped doing seminars for 5 or 6 years, because when I was doing them previously in our office, we weren't having the results I was liking at the time. We're doing a lot of sales events with United Healthcare at the time. They were paying for the shipping and everything like that. We were having a little bit of results, but like the biggest thing that just kind of irked me was I did one a month for a year, and I had 3 secret shoppers come over the course of that year. And like I kept getting reports. There was one where like I even had a coaching, and I was just like, this is some bullshit. And so we stopped doing them almost altogether because the compliance of them was just irritating me. Now I've been stubborn on that front all the way up until this year. So we started getting back into them. We actually had our first one in 6 years on Monday, and we had a killer turnout. We had about 24 seniors in the room.
Awesome.
And we have another one tomorrow. So just anytime you get back into something like that, there's always that concern, I guess, that maybe it won't go as well as you're wanting it to. Spend a lot of money on those things to fill those seats, fill those butts. So yeah, so that's what I would say for me is the thing that I'm most enthusiastic about for this week that's kind of transpired is, I feel like we got some good momentum going, and we got several lined up over AEP, and we're kind of using the same strategy.
Love it.
Are you doing sales events or educational events?
Educational.
You are doing educational. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I
You had mentioned earlier you were doing
20.
sales events with UHC and you weren't getting the turnout.
Well,
do you think that had something to do with it? That it was a sales event, or
I'm sure that had something to do with it. I think our whole like model for it was off, to be honest with you. When I look back on it, keep in mind this was 6 years ago.
Right.
So what we were doing the sales events with UHC primarily due to the fact that they were willing to spend $1,000 a month on mailing things for us. So that's why we did it that way. But we were having people come to the office here, and I think it's hard to get people to come to an agency office for a seminar. I think that's just kind of a tough location.
They already feel like they're getting sold, right?
Yes, yeah, like right when they're walking in the door. And of course there's no meal, here or anything like that. So I think all those things were working against us, but we would still have people come to every single one. They were profitable, but the thing that irked me the most was the secret shoppers and the compliance. And I remember at one point I was living in Florida, and a secret shopper called me and said they got something from me in the mail, and they listed off my home address because I was working at my house at the time. This was 2017. So I just spotted them right away, because I would never, first of all, I wasn't mailing things out at the time. Secondly, I wouldn't put my home address on the mailer. But they don't know the difference, right, between home address, that kind of thing. So I was like, I'm moving back to Utah. I'm not in business anymore.
Well, so let's go back. I wanted to hear, because really me and Christian, like, we've just now kind of in the past, I'd say year, maybe less than 2 years, have started to kind of run in the same circles, gotten to know each other a little bit better. And man, you're doing some amazing things on the Medicare side of things. I had to throw that in there. But no, take us back, dude. Like, okay, so when you were living in Florida, or like, how did Christian Brindle get started in insurance? That's what I want to know. And I know obviously some people, I know you've shared it before on some of your shows and some of your content, which we'll get into that, y'all. The guy's a freaking content machine. And we'll really talk about how he's able to do all of that and the reasons behind it. But take us back. Like, who is Christian? How'd you get going? Let the listeners know.
Yeah, definitely. So, my background is like a lot of people in the business, probably Joe, Hugh as well, is I had a parent in the business. I had a parent in the industry. So my dad was a Medicare agent for 25 years before I ever started. So I got started when I was at 20 years old. So I'm 30 now. I just turned 30 3 weeks ago or so. And so I started when I was 20, so I'm really close to that full on like decade in the industry, which is kind of creepy to me. Like my career is almost a
You can
10-year-old.
say decade.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
I've
actually
been in a
say it.
decade.
Yeah. And so my dad was in the business. My dad had built a kind of a little, brick and mortar agency. He had about, 3 independent agents in his office, secretary kind of thing. They put up good numbers. He was a very good Met Sup producer in the 90s and early 2000s, but he was kind of coasting when I came in, like just kind of like maintaining. And so when I came in at age 20, what he taught me to do was all the old school stuff because he wasn't actively building anymore. So he wasn't really up to speed on what the trends were at that point in time. So what he taught me to do was he taught me to cold call people that were turning 65, 90 days out, pound those phones, right? Like
Yep.
we were chasing down 4 or 5-year-old direct mail leads. Like we weren't buying leads, we weren't marketing. And I just thought that's what everybody did in the business. So I did that for probably my first 3 or 4 years before I realized I'm like, oh, I could do this a little differently. Now, what it did for me, I think, is it got me really, really good on the phone. I think it really sharpened my skills quite a bit to maneuver a phone call. And I tell people this all the time. I think cold calling is probably one of the least efficient way to get business because like you make 300-400 phone calls, you might get 5 or 6 appointments, and that's a good day, maybe. But it definitely made me a really, really good salesperson. And, I made my first 6 figures really before I started buying leads or marketing, doing anything like that. So I got really good at it, but that's kind of how I got in. That's kind of what I was taught. And, so I got started working with my dad and then, started doing things a little differently, started growing a lot, started hiring people. And then probably by the time I was in year 6, my company had more revenue than his because we had separate companies. He didn't want me to have anything to do with his company. Some people will bring their kids in and they'll contract them as LOAs. Not my dad. My dad didn't want me using his brand. Didn't want me. I think he was worried I was going to like embarrass his brand, or I don't know what he was thinking at the time. But my company was always separate. I was always 1099 and independent, and so I had my own company incorporated. And we were making more revenue than his after about 6 years. And so we broke off, separated. And kind of the weird thing about it today is he's kind of half retired, but I qualify for contracts that are above his. So now he's under me.
Wow.
Weird, strange dynamic. Very weird.
Well, and I think, but I wanted to highlight this. And so obviously, I'm in a family business and, started with Pops, and PNC is definitely a little bit different, right? But, I love what you said because I think, having that independence where I think some people, especially in family businesses, can almost be spoon-fed in certain situations where it's like, here you go, right? Where they don't really have to like come in and grind. It's like they're just getting handed everything, right? And I think, for me, I love that you said anybody that knows me knows how old Joe started, freaking pound the phones. And it wasn't because I knew there was better ways to do it, but we were just broke as shit. So we couldn't afford any of the other good stuff. So it was like, just download the list, run them through the scrub tool and call. But I think you're 100% correct because it really, dude, it sharpens this up here when it comes to sales. Like, dude, if you can make a sale on a cold call, oh my Lord, give me a warm lead and it's game over. Put 24 freaking butts in the seats and I get to sit there and talk to you in person. Done deal, right? So I wanted to highlight that. That's very powerful.
It's interesting too because
that topic comes up a lot. I was going to say that topic comes up a lot on the show. There's several pros that we've had in recent interviews where everybody has basically said that exact same thing. Like, cold calling is not fun. Cold calling is not the most efficient way to go about things. But if we don't teach new agents how to cold call, we are robbing them of their full skill set and potential of when they actually get leads that are valuable, right? And really need that better service, better care. So I just wanted to point out that it's every time we get a solid pro on here, that's always something that pops up when it comes to sales and cold calling. It's like, I don't know, shitty thing to have to do, but best training ground you can get as an agent.
I love what Joe said too about, like, give me a lead and it's gonna feel like Christmas. It's gonna feel like Christmas morning, right? Like the first kind of leads we were buying were what were they called? I think they were called, I can't even remember, but they were aged leads. They were $8 aged leads. I'm trying to remember the vendor. And the vendor would say they were shared with 5 or 6 agents. I kind of came to believe later on they were shared with like 50 agents. And like, but I remember, and those, so compare those to any exclusive lead today and that agents complain about, that lead is, dog shit in comparison, right? But
Right.
when you're cold calling and you're even doing that, you're like, this is awesome. They actually requested some kind of information. Like this is incredible. Like it feels like gold in comparison. And
Yeah.
you can tell who's really cold called and who hasn't by how they talk about leads.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. So then, okay, so then let's fast forward a little bit,
Well said.
right? So what are 2 to 3 things that you think you've done? Because obviously, okay, now you've been in almost a decade. We'll just say a decade, right? When I was in just over 5 years, I was like, I've been in a better half of a decade, right? So people are like, they don't think like they're 100% buying insurance from a baby. I'm sure maybe you've gone through some of that as well when you start so young. But now, obviously, so you've come in 10 years, 6 years in, you surpassed the person who'd been doing it for 20, 30 years, right? What are 2 to 3 things that you think that you did very well and implemented in your agency to see that growth in a very short period of time?
Yeah, definitely. I think a part of it was my dad stopped growing. So when you're not growing, you're shrinking. So I think that certainly had part to do with it. In all fairness to him, that he wasn't focused on growth; he was on cruise control.
Yep.
And so while I was rising, let's say he's here and I'm rising, he's shrinking.
Yep.
So that was part of it. It was almost like I was running a race against someone that didn't want to run. They wanted to just mildly jog. But I'd say the 3 things that helped me really grow in the amount of time that I did was, I think, number one, it might sound cliche, but hard work. Like I work really, really hard. I still do. Like I feel like I'm working all the time. And so, and I've always been like that. Like, and Joe, I'm sure that you've experienced this too. Like when you're 21 in the business, when you're 22, 23 in the business, everybody that at least before the Facebook groups, when I got started, there wasn't Facebook groups or anything like that, right? It was more so just like the other Medicare agents I knew were like 60 and 70
Right.
and things like that. People in my dad's inner circle kind of thing. Like there wasn't hardly anybody my age or even close to my age.
Right.
So, but the people that in your inner circle, they're going out to the clubs, they're going to the bars, they're going to parties, they're wanting to just hang, and there's nothing wrong with that. Trust me. Like, I go to a conference with Tony and I want to hang, you know what I mean? Like, so I think in the right environment, I think in the right environment, it's perfectly fine. But I think when you're starting out and you're building a business and you just, it's do or die, you can't be hungover the next day. You're not gonna be sharp.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you can't get lack of sleep the next day, like I think there needs to be a level of focus and discipline. And that's really tough. But I felt like, my focus, my work ethic was really huge because it was just, I thought that everybody was weird. Everybody I knew was weird. I'm like, why don't you guys want to work? And then I realized I'm the weird one. By about 25, 26, I was like, oh, I'm the weird one. I'm the strange one. Everyone else is normal. I'm weird.
You're the 1%, right? Or the 8% or whatever. But basically that's it, right? You're in that group of people that succeed when they run businesses. They're in that group of people that either A, just want to get a job, have a career, right? Live the quote unquote American dream. And they're not going to succeed if they try to run a business, or they're going to succeed haphazardly, maybe average. It's just, and you call yourself weird, but yes, the people that succeed in world at the level that you do, there's obviously a much smaller percentage of them. So we certainly look like outliers. Absolutely. Right. Even though that's ultimately what this entire nation was founded on. But here, why do you work so hard? Like what is going on in your head that makes you the weird one, that makes you part of that 1% of that elite group of people that can run a business and build what you build, and ultimately just be the type of person that works 6-7 days a week? Because I know that's you, and don't even try to deny it, because I know how hard you work, and it's ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, it's Monday through Saturday, and most Sundays I'm doing some kind of work, even if it's just a couple of hours. So like, I think for me, I put a lot of pressure on myself. I put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself to where I will set very lofty targets for myself and goals. And sometimes I'll even talk about publicly what my goals are. because I really want to put that pressure on myself. I want to look stupid if I don't hit my goal. And that's like, it's kind of a torturous mentality, really, if you think about it. Like there's some psychiatrist out there might watch this and they'll be like, oh, from a mental health perspective, you're damaged, boy. But that's okay, but I think
damaged
it's
with
just
a lot of money in my pocket.
Yeah, I can pay for therapy, but but I feel like that's a big part of it, right? I put a lot of pressure on myself. I really and I know you both feel this the same way. Like I definitely, I mean, I want to feel like I accomplished something in my life. I want to feel like I was a somebody in what I do in my life. Like I don't want to just be an afterthought, right? I think about those kind of things. That's kind of the things that go through my head. And so I know that for me to be as successful as I want to be, and to be as successful as I've become, even at this point, and same with you two, you have to work really hard. Like it just doesn't happen. Like it takes a lot of discipline and work ethic. And so that the work ethic's definitely the first thing. I think the second thing I'll tell you is I think the ability to change, because when I stopped cold calling and I was still in my dad's hierarchy at the time, he was not supportive of it. He didn't want me to do it. He was like, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. I wanted to change. I wanted to do different things. And I've always tried to just kind of move forward with my business and try new things and try to, go where the trends are going and maybe even try to stay ahead of trends if possible. I read a book when I was 24 or so called Who Moved My Cheese? Excellent book if you haven't read it. It's a classic. It's an old book, but it's all about embracing change, because by doing things the same way of the way things used to be, you're going to be left behind. You're going to get stuck in the maze. You're going to starve to death, that kind of thing. And so me being willing to change is what allowed me to start doing things on social media. It's what allowed me to start branding my business. It's what allowed me to start doing our own marketing. It's what allowed me to really stop cold calling, because if I didn't change, I'd still be banging out 300-400 cold calls today, and I'd probably be making 25% of the revenue that we are.
Right.
Yeah, you'd probably even have lost all your hair. I mean, because that's stressful.
Yeah, face hair and all.
Well, I think with that though, and Tony knows the word I'm going to say, because I say it all the time in the show. It's like one of my favorite words is, change. Change can be scary. Change, I think, scares some people, right? And so I always use the word, hey, you got to pivot and change up pace. And so I remember when I first started doing the social media stuff, right, where I'm just like, I am on Facebook all day, still am, but all day, right? And people are like, this dude, he doesn't get any work done. How does he get work done if he's doing this all day? And I'm like, well, because I'm treating it as a business tool now. Fast forward 4 or 5 years later that I've been doing it and I've been working the groups and now obviously creating groups and putting out content, all that good stuff, which honestly, we're very similar in that, Christian.
Yeah.
They're kicking themselves that they didn't make the pivot back then,
What they don't realize is when they see you on Facebook and they're like, oh, Joe doesn't get any work done, and they don't realize that is work. You are working.
Yeah.
That is work.
Yeah. Yep. 100%, man.
If you do it like Joe does, it's definitely work. 100%.
Yeah. And it is, and
it's taught me quite a bit.
But you got to be willing to make that pivot, right? And I think sometimes, and that is a very common mindset, in my opinion, that if it's not broke, then what are we doing? Like, why are we changing it up, right? And I think, you said something that's very, very important is following trends, right? And especially on the marketing side of things, which I think, Christian, you do a really good job of, not only on your agency, but also for your groups, for your summit and event and everything like that. Like getting ahead of that trend, right? Where you go catch something and you're like, ooh, dang, that's freaking good. I need to start trying to do that and testing it out. And even now, granted, I'm not on TikTok, but that's a big one where, man, the agents who figured out that TikTok was really going, like, dang, dude, they are light years ahead. Like, I mean, they've got so many viral videos. And so, following trends, especially in an industry, whether we're PNC, life and health, Medicare, whatever it is, right? Dude, like our industry is changing multiple times throughout the year in every single vertical of insurance, right? So a lot of that is being able to follow those trends, right? But then not just follow the trend, right? Cool. If you do TikTok and you go viral, what are you doing with it, right? Because then it's like, okay, if we're going to be trendy, what are we doing with it to actually grow our agency, or are we just getting lost doing dance moves on TikTok? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So no, I wanted to highlight that because I think that's really important. I think you've done a really exceptional job with that.
Well, thanks. I
What?
appreciate
How
you
do
saying that, Joe. And you have too. You have too, by the way. Like I've seen you grow, and like it's amazing. I remember when you first started the syndicate, I was like, what is this all about? You know, I was like, let me check this out a little bit, because I'm a group junkie. I don't know how many
Right.
I'm in. I might be in 60
Yeah.
insurance groups. I can't keep up with them all, but your group has grown. Your organic from day one. You know, the organic conversation and the organic capabilities of it were just phenomenal. It's grown so quickly. So like, and how many groups do you have now? Like 10?
Well, so I've got a lot in just the syndicate family of groups is what I call them. So we've got the gaming syndicate, which that was a trend, right? So guys, and everybody's like, oh, he's starting up a gaming syndicate, like we just get together and game. And it's like, well, yeah, we do, because if you guys were following trends, you'd understand that Twitch is ridiculous, right? And so the
Yeah.
whole goal was, hey, let's get together. Let's actually find some like MLG gamer, like let's find some serious gamers, and then I'm going to send them all syndicate swag, and then we stream on Twitch, live through the group or whatever. And then this just from your YouTube stuff, y'all. Based off watch hours and views, you can drive revenue, right? And it wasn't me just wanting to play games every week with a bunch of insurance agents. Like there was something behind that. But yeah, we got gaming syndicate, trucking syndicate, annuity syndicate, the overlay syndicate, the acquisition syndicate, obviously the insurance syndicate. And then
Man.
I'm in total, you said I'm in like over right now, I think I'm in like 130 something Facebook groups in total, man. But
Yeah.
but those are my leads, right?
Wild.
Like, I mean, so instead of me going out and buying leads or working leads, that's how I'm getting and working those leads, right? So think about
Right.
how many leads do you buy when you're outbound dialing, right? And this is probably a little bit more specific to life, but how many leads do you buy, and how many do you need to call to set this many appointments in order to get this many closes? It's the same thing as my comments or the people that I'm interacting with or DMing or whatever. I've got to hit a certain number in order to have enough coming in to feed the team, whatever that is. So,
Yep.
good
Yep.
stuff. Good stuff. What's number 3? I know we're kind of going, but it's like, this is really good stuff.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
number 3?
I think number 3 is having the courage to spend money on your business. Like I'm now just starting to unload what our budget is for AEP, and it's just making me nauseous a little bit. But I'm like, and I feel that way every year. Every year, by
Right.
the way, this isn't just the first year. Like every year, I spend more than I did the year before, right? Because that's growth.
Yep.
We have agents internally to feed now. It's not me working the leads anymore. So I have other people. I have a team of people to make sure that they have enough leads. They have enough people to talk to. But spending the money, I think, has been huge for me. Like for so many years, part of the reason why I cold called as long as I did was because I was like, I was scared to spend money on my business. And I knew I could get business by not spending money, by doing everything I was taught. But it's just, it gets to a point where it's just such slow growth, and for me, I look at it like this. I think if your business is a flickering flame, right? Let's say you're like out camping somewhere in the mountains or the woods or whatever. Not everybody has mountains. We do, but but let's say your business is a flickering flame, and money is like gasoline you're pouring onto it.
Right.
And so I feel like having that courage to spend money, and I say courage because it's really, really hard for some people to wrap their minds around it. One thing I talked about at our event this year that Tony was emceeing for, when I was on stage, was you need to look at it when you're investing into your business, you need to look at it like it's an investment instead of an expense. And so many people look at it like an expense, like they're never going to see that money again. Like there's no chance of any ROI. They look at it like they look at their light bill or their power bill or, whatever, their car payment, whatever the case may be. They're just giving the money away, but they need to separate those in their mind. You have expenses and you have investments.
Yep.
And so I think for me, when I started spending money on my business, we really started to see growth. And I think spending, and I'm always pushing myself to spend more because I know there's nothing else I can invest my money into and get the same kind of ROI. Like it's not the stock market, it's not real estate, it's not anything.
Right.
So that mentality, I think, is really what separates people that really take off from people that have a really successful book of business, but they never make it into like a organization of sorts.
Yep. Yep. And that's so you're
What
talking about that mentality. Sorry, real quick, Tony. How and maybe well go ahead, Tony, because I wanted to shift to content, but I wanted to talk, but you go, Tony, and then we'll shift over to content because I have a good question for you, Christian.
what kind of marketing are you doing for AEP as you're gearing up and spending more money, as you say? Like what are some of your best or favorite styles of marketing and lead generation that you're doing to feed all
Yeah,
those agents,
so
as you said?
what there's a lot of things we're doing to bring in leads for AEP. I love to try everything. Like I there's nothing that I'm not willing to try.
Sure.
But a lot of the stuff that I'd say that is my favorite are just, the tried and true stuff like Facebook ads. So we're spending a lot of money on Facebook ads this year. We're doing a lot of branded direct mail drips. We've completely moved away from the generic direct mail. Very little of that, but we're doing a lot of branded direct mail drips where we're sending out 3, maybe 4 postcards to people that are branded with our branding, our wording. It's custom made
Brindle
postcards.
branding, not like UHC or Humana. You're branding obviously your agency, right?
Right. Yeah, we're branding CBI. And so we started doing that in January with Mailbox Power. Shout out Mailbox Power. And we've with T65 people, and that's been very good. We start hitting them, 6 months out, 7 months out, depending on. We've tried different kind of time frames from their birthday, and then each month they get a different card that's similar to the card they saw before, but it's branded, and the wording is slightly different. And we've found that by a person getting multiple cards, and Mailbox Power is so cool because it's like a set it and forget it. You set it on a schedule, you just forget it, it just sends. It's a lot. We used to do this through a mail house local here in Utah, but I found out we'd save a fortune because Mailbox Power they don't charge you for the postcards if they're the small ones, and the ones they do charge you for, they're pretty cost effective.
Yep.
So we're doing a lot of that. I love that. The seminar stuff is exciting. So we're spending a lot of money to advertise for the seminars. And there's certainly some generic leads that we still buy. Like we still do a lot of campaigns with Lead Heroes with Glenjamin Shelton over there, and
Glenjamin.
and so yeah, I mean that's just a couple of things that we're doing. There's probably we're putting up a couple more billboards just over the course of AEP. Like there's several things that we're doing that just kind of come to mind, but those are probably the ones that probably get me the most enthusiastic. We're going to be at senior expos. We have to pay about $1,000 to be at each one. So we're going to be at a senior expo first week of October for 2 days, and there's going to be about 7,000 seniors there. The next week we're going to be at another one that was about $800 for us to be there. There's going to be about 4,500 seniors there, and they only let 2 insurance agencies in. The rest are carriers, healthcare workers. So we were on the ball. We were able to book that to be one of the 2 agencies. So there's a lot of things we're doing for AEP that I'm excited about.
That's awesome, good, man. Sweet.
Doesn't surprise me. You're doing a little bit of everything on those branded mailers. Did it take some time for those to? I mean, are you getting the same kind of return? Are you getting a better return?
So
than the generic ones?
Yeah, I'd say we're getting a better return, but the call to action on those is to get people to call in, and instead of maybe send back a postcard,
instead of a BRC mailer card back.
Mm-hmm. So I think there's definitely more intent from the people we're talking to. Not Absolutely. To say that direct mail leads. I think, and if someone's working an actual lead, right? I think direct mail is some of the highest intent you're going to find anywhere, certainly. But when someone calls in, it's even more so. So it's all about the call to action to try to get people to call into our office and schedule an appointment with one of our agents. I would say I think we get the most calls usually at the 3rd card. So like when someone's 4 months away from their birthday, they've gotten 3 cards already. If we start at 6 months, they've gotten one at 6 months, they've gotten one at 5 months, they've gotten one at 4 months. And that's probably when we get the most amount of calls. So like for me, it was a matter of being patient and kind of just understanding it. So I actually learned about the system from Becky Reel, and we were doing it through a mail house last year. We were trying something similar, but it was just more expensive. And Becky Reel actually turned me on to Mailbox Power. So we started shifting our focus on mailers over to that. But yeah, I think it takes a little while. I don't think a bunch of people call the first card. But when you're mailing every month, like let's say you're mailing people that turn 65 in January, and then you're mailing February and March, like every month is getting 3 cards. So when you have multiple months that are being mailed all at once, then you start to see a lot more calls come in, right? And you're getting a lot more volume of it come in. So we've seen very good
it's
results with it.
compounding effect, just like the results of insurance are.
Mhm.
Doesn't surprise me. Are you using like any QR codes or anything like that on there, or just
We
here's the mailer,
haven't.
there's my phone number, give me a
We
call?
just the phone number. We haven't.
Okay.
Eric Fierro's been yelling at me to put a QR code on him, so I'm going to. Just haven't gotten around. We it's been working well, so we haven't adjusted it. But I'm going to send out a specific postcard just during AEP that's separate from the others with a different phone number, so I can track the results and just kind of see if it changes anything. I worry about giving them too many options or too many things to do, if maybe it will lessen the call volume. But I want to test it. I haven't really
Understood.
tested it.
It's good.
You designing the card yourself, or did you just lean on mailbox power because they know what works?
I designed some of them myself. There's a couple that they have actual designs you can purchase and customize. So there's a couple that I did that early on when I was just kind of figuring it out. There's a couple that I just designed myself from scratch. What we do is we'll design them in Canva, get them the right measurements, and then we'll just put them in, because the mailbox power design tool is a little tricky, to say the least, compared to Canva. I like Canva much better. It's easier to create.
Yeah,
in Canva.
yeah. 100%.
And so that's kind of how we do it. But yeah, that's something that we're really excited about, really enthusiastic about. I've seen a lot of agents. I think it's really Becky that's kind of talked about that publicly, and a lot of people have really kind of latched onto it, including myself. You can learn something for everybody. Becky's an agent that works with us. She's a partner agent with us, but she's an absolute rock star. So I try to learn things from everybody. If there's a fourth thing that's helped me, I think it's just learning and being a sponge and being willing to try things.
And that is exactly where I wanted to pivot, because you said so earlier, you said mentality, right? And I think, one thing you've been able to do also a really good job at is helping share your mentality, and not only mentality, but really the mentality of being able to wanting to educate, not even being able to educate agents. Like that's one thing, right? I think anybody can talk, and that's, if they're just doing it to do it, that's fine. But it's like you actually really care, but you're willing to learn as well, right? And so just having that, again, that mentality, that mindset is kind of where I wanted to go to, because like, why the books? Why the YouTube channel, right? Why the Facebook group? And I think we all know the Facebook group because they're watching in a Facebook group. So we know what that community piece is. But like, really, I wanted to hark on, let's start with the YouTube, and then let's kind of go to the books, and then obviously, kind of wrap up there. But I wanted to really kind of pick your brain, like, where did that come from? Like, dude, I want to help agents, or I want to throw a conference for agents too, right? Like, where's that mentality at? Where's that mindset come from?
So I think the mindset comes from when I was just getting started in my career. I was a big Grant Cardone guy. Grant Cardone was my guy. Like I read every book, I watched every video.
Don't you have them like tattooed on your shoulder or something like that? A portrait of Grant Cardone?
I wouldn't say a portrait. On your ass, maybe? I would say a portrait. But he would always talk about, like, one thing that he's very good at is he has his sales training stuff, but he has a lot of great material about branding and this exact topic, which is content creation. And one thing he always used to talk about was, you put yourself out there, and it's better to put yourself out there too much than too little. Like, I mean, you want to put yourself out there to the point where people are getting sick of you. You're getting people hating on you because, you want to essentially eliminate those people. You want to attract the right people and, detract everybody else. And so that was always his mentality. And, he would talk about these different platforms. And like, he always used to say, when I would listen to him, he would say, every single platform is like a different channel. Think about it like that. It's like a different TV channel, or, and you can host a different television show on each one that's different from each other. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And so, with the book, I actually started writing books before I did anything else. So I started writing books to bring in clients. That was my idea. And I started writing books, which were some Medicare books, and we would give them to my clients and things like that. When they come into the office. Yeah. So it was client facing stuff, and it was effective. It did well. I think more than anything else, I think what it did was, if I was going into a house for somebody, let's say they're turning 65 and I'm trying to sell them a Medicare plan, and I walk in and they've met with 3 other agents, and I hand them a book with my name on it that I wrote, 9 out of 10 of them never read it.
Right.
They don't have to. They saw my name on the book on a topic they're interested to know more about. So I must know more than the other 2 or 3 agents they're talking to, because they didn't write a book. I wrote a book.
Right.
And so
It's good.
it just creates a level of authority in yourself that other people aren't going to have. And most people aren't going to read the book. They don't have to. As far as I'm concerned, it could be a coloring book. Like, most people aren't going to open it. Now, you want it to be good content. You want it to be a good book, because that 1 out of 10 is going to read it and everything like that. You don't want, to get all these terrible reviews, but the book itself per se doesn't really matter. It's having it out there. And so when I started to work with agents, it was December of 2019. It was AEP had just wrapped up. I had this idea. I wanted to start putting trainings out for agents, because I had been a top producer for a bunch of different carriers. And I was like, well, I there's some stuff I want to put out there I don't see other people talking about. I was like, let me do this. So I started the YouTube channel. Little did I know that it helps a lot to grow a YouTube channel if you have an other audience already established, like a Facebook group. So the videos weren't getting all that many views right off the bat. So I'm like, what do I do about this? So I start posting the videos in other people's groups. And I'm not going to say any names, because I don't want to, because I'm cool with everybody. But some people didn't like it. They felt like I was self-promoting myself. They felt like I was taking advantage of their audience. They felt like, I was breaking the rules, so people would reach out to me and they'd be like, hey, I'm not going to kick you out of the group, but like, we don't want you sharing your videos in here. I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, that sucks. So a month later, I started the 6-Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group. And the origin of it was so I could have a place to post my videos. That was the original purpose of it. I never expected it to be what it is. I expected it to be like 500 people, maybe max, or something like that. That was kind of like my vision. Like, if we could have 500 people, like, post my videos for these 500 people. And so,
like, what, 507 now? It's grown quite
maybe,
a bit, hasn't it?
508. 508.
Savage.
But that was kind of where the Facebook group
Smart.
came from originally, because it was more just like figuring it out as you go. I'm very much like let's figure it out, and we'll figure out the details of it later. So it was more so like, make the YouTube channel. Oh, wait, we need a place to post the videos to get some traffic. Where do we post them? Oh, I can't post in your group. You don't want me to? You want me to go away? Okay, I'll just make my own group. So, and like, the other Medicare Facebook groups probably could have prevented the whole 6-Figure Medicare Agent group from even starting if they let me post in their groups.
Right.
Because I wouldn't have probably thought of making the group if it wasn't for that.
Right.
So that's kind of where that came from. And then on the conference, everything kind of starts with like a light bulb for me. I think that's kind of where I don't know what it is, but I think we all get this in certain respects, but there's certain things that just set off a light bulb for me. And for some reason, I just didn't consider it before. I was at 8% last year. And I was at 8%, and I remember it was on day 2, and something happened on stage. I think there was something that happened on stage where, like, people were, coming up, joining a membership group of some kind or something like that. And there was someone that was sitting next to me in the audience, and they were like, "Are you going to go up there? Seems like you should be up there." And I was like, "I'm not going up there." And they were like, "Well, why not?" And I was thinking in my head, I'm like, why go up there when I can make my own event? I'm like, I can make my own event, be part of my own thing. And there was a light bulb that just went off in my mind. And I immediately get out my phone. I text one of my biggest contacts with my FMO. I'm like, what do you think about this? I'm like, they're like, we love it. We'll support you. Like, whatever you need. I'm like, oh. I text Glenjamin Shelton. I'm like, what do you think about this? He's like, I think it's great. So I'm just texting different people that are like very close to me in the industry. I actually, at the event, I talked to Tony about it. I was like, what do you think about this? Would you want to be the MC? Tony's like, absolutely.
Yep.
Talked to Justin Brock. I'm like, what do you think about this? I'm like, would you want to be a speaker? He's like, yeah. I'm like, we haven't even done anything yet. And like, all these people are willing to be a part of it. And so it was more so just like, let's do this. Let's figure it out. So we booked a venue, didn't know what we were doing. To me, if we had 50 people there, it would have been a win. We ended up with, I think, with speakers and sponsors, 150, 160 people in the room.
It's a It's awesome.
And so I think everything was really just figuring it out as you go. Like there wasn't a lot of study or strategy on my end in terms of kind of figuring some of the stuff out. Like I would study a lot of these things later on, after I've already started doing it. Like the Facebook group, I would study things on how to make it grow and how to, run it effectively after I already started it. But I didn't need to do all that before I convinced myself to do it. I just did it. And
That's awesome.
just kind of figured it out as you go,
Well,
like
and
building
I
an
think,
airplane on the way down.
well, and I think, y'all, if I could sum up this call, really in like I guess 3 words. I mean, it's hard work and it's change, right? Like, I mean, your
Mhm.
Christian is not scared to change, right? Or to literally maybe blindly say, I'm going to do an event, right? And then
Yeah.
next thing you know, you got like half the event scheduled by the time you even leave the event that you're at. I freaking love it. But I everything I'm really hearing is, man, everything you've done, like you've just had the willingness to change, to try things, to invest in your business, right? That was a big change in me and Pop's mindset with Redwood, was taking that expense mindset and changing it to an investment mindset. Like you said, dude, there is no better ROI, right? And so it's like, why are people scared to throw more at it? If you are in insurance is a numbers game. We all know this. So it's like the more you throw at it and your numbers, which that's another thing I hope you guys have picked up on. Like Christian, you can tell he knows his freaking numbers. That's for sure. But I love that dude. And so I wanted to give you a couple minutes here to wrap up the show and just talk about your book, the newest book, obviously, that you've got it coming out, or that is out, right? And then guys, we'll circle back around and drop a link in the comments too, so that you guys can go check that out. But just where can they go find it? What's it about? And then we'll kind of close out from there.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Joe. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me on. This was a blast. So I really enjoyed it. You guys do such a great job with the group and with this show and all the shows that you guys do. So I really appreciate you having me on. So the book to me, so the book is called Superstar: What Separates Top Producing Insurance Agents from the Mediocre Ones. I almost didn't use that word mediocre because I felt like it might have been a little too harsh. But I talked to someone in my office about it. My assistant, she was like, "No, I think it's perfect. Use it." Like she proofreads my books. And so to me, the book is very personal to me. It's a study of excellence. It's a celebration of what do the top 1% of insurance producers do that nobody else is doing. Like they know something that everyone else doesn't. And a lot of it, I think, is mental. I think a lot of people get in their own way. I think they look at things the wrong way. I think they talk themselves into a certain narrative that's not true. And they convince themselves of that what they're doing that's comfortable is the right way. They play head games with themselves. And so the book talks a lot about, a lot of what we've talked about on this call today. It talks about, being willing to change, being willing to adapt, being willing to work your butt off, being willing to commit. How many people, Joe, have you seen dip their toe into the insurance industry, dip their toe? I'm going to give it a try.
Right.
They usually don't work out. They usually don't make it because they're not committed from the get-go.
Yep.
And so the book talks a lot about that. It talks a lot about leads in terms of like the attitude that agents have towards leads. Like there's a whole chapter about how it's not the lead, it's the agent working the lead.
Ooh,
There's
that's good.
There's a whole chapter about how your FMO isn't going to build your business for you. Like there's so much of an emphasis on my FMO's not supporting me. My FMO's not doing this. My FMO's not doing that. And don't get me wrong. There's good FMOs out there. There's bad FMOs. I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case, but the FMO is not going to make or break your business. They might help you maybe a little bit more successful by being in the right situation, by having the right fit. But I don't believe that the FMO is going to be the difference of if you make it or not. I think
it's good.
You take a superstar. To me, the definition of a superstar is an agent that puts up so much production. They make such an impact in the industry that it's just like a tidal wave. And they're putting up numbers that are just obscene, like it'd be like a small team of agents that might have to do that. That's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind. And so you put one of those people with any FMO, any hierarchy in America, and they're going to kill it.
Yep.
Because they're not blaming the FMO. Now, will they strategically, maybe if they're not in a good situation, move to another, just because it can help them out a little bit, in their business? Certainly, but they're not thinking, if I could just get here, then I'm going to be successful. No, the FMO doesn't make the calls, doesn't make the sales, doesn't put in the hours. And so the book just is a celebration of really what it takes to be a freaking rock star. That is what it is. And to me, it's very personal to me. And it's a book I wanted to write for a long time. I think I was a little nervous to write it because it's kind of in your face a little bit. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I never trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think it's needed because I see a lot of conversation in a lot of Facebook groups that I just look at it and I'm looking at it from afar and I'm like, it's not the leads. It's not the FMO. You're not doing something right.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. It's good.
Those agents that you were describing, it's because they have the belief that they only have to count on one person and one person only, and that's themselves, right? And they have that complete belief that it doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what it takes. They are going to be the deciding factor in success.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. It's the old Zig
The
Ziglar
most truly
phrase,
in the
right?
way they'll just move them and go find somebody else. But ultimately, you're correct. But it comes down to that person having that absolute belief, like just 100%. I'm the one that everything's going to be decided upon.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's that old Zig Ziglar phrase. If it's meant to
Did
be,
I
it's
lose
up to
y'all?
me.
Tony, you been, man. Oh, the face that's on the screen right now is perfect. I need to freaking take a picture of this shit. Everyone's like, all righty, guys. No, hey, but with that,
from here, it looked like y'all. Yeah, obviously, it's always me. Whatever this room's got going on in it today again.
With that, y'all, we appreciate y'all. Christian, thank you so much, man, for hopping on. This was an action-packed episode, dude. I swear, I mean, we're having just amazing shows, right? And so thank you so much for hopping on. Everybody go check out his book, Superstar. We're going to drop the link in the comments for you guys to be able to go check that out. Go purchase that. And guys, remember, it's Wednesday, right? The week ain't over. Let's get out there. Let's keep crushing it. Merwin, I appreciate you, good sir. And I hope every syndicate member out here, every listener, y'all have an amazing rest of your day and week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Have a good one, y'all.
Thanks, gents.
Insurance